to order at 7:46 p.m. Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from November 26, 2018. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Dancho.
Second.
Second by Mr. Tiki. Any discussion on the minutes?
That's yours.
Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 9-0. Excellent, thank you. I'd like to take a motion to take the agenda out of order and move new business item number 6, sewer appeals, to the next agenda item.
So moved.
By Mr. O'Brien, seconded by Mr. Tiki. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll call to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 9-0. Thank you. So this is for this WPCA. This is a first-time new process. We have some appeals tonight that we're going to hear from homeowners and business owners in town. What we're going to do in terms of an appeals process is allow everyone here this evening to state their case for the commission, and we will go from there. I'll read a statement of the process and how we're going to basically the meeting is going to flow tonight. So if you'll indulge me for a moment, we're about to hear from users of our sewer system that claim to be aggrieved because of the way that they are being charged by the WPCA. When your matter is called, please come to the podium, introduce yourself, provide your address, and let the commission know at the time if there are any other people with you that will also be addressing the commission in support of your appeal. In order to simplify the process and keep all presentations on topic, the commission requests that you keep your comments and evidence limited to such information that demonstrates that the invoice that you received is different from the effluent being discharged into our sewer system. During your presentation, the commission may ask you to keep your presentation focused if it believes that you're straying beyond the subject. If you continue to raise issues that extend beyond, we'll ask that we continue to move on and close up the presentation. Once you have finished your presentation, or if your presentation is stopped by the commission, I'll ask you to have any further information to give to the commission to support your appeal. Once you have answered this question, the commission will conclude the hearing on your matter and move on to the next matter. No decisions will be made this evening. As such, once you have finished your presentation, you may leave the chambers if you so choose. The commission staff and attorney will work between tonight and our next meeting to draft resolutions for the commission to consider at its next meeting, which is currently scheduled for February 25th, 2019. During this period, our staff may contact you to follow up on your presentation and see if a resolution can be agreed upon. Any resolutions will be subject to the commission's approval. In the event that a resolution cannot be achieved, the commission will enter its decision at its next meeting, as I so stated, which is scheduled for February 25th, 2019. Okay? So with that, what I would like is, we have, I believe, 5 people tonight, 5 groups, 5 organizations, I should say. I'm going to limit it to 10 minutes. If you need a couple extra minutes, no problem. We'll work with you. Each. If you can wrap it up before that, no problem. I just don't want to limit anyone and cut anybody off. Okay? So, regarding, I will call, and this is just the order I had printed out the emails. I have Mr. Gary Kripsky. Is Mr. Kripsky or any representation here on Mr. Kripsky's behalf? Seeing none, we will make him aware that he has the same window in terms of February 25th and notify him appropriately. Mr. Timiak?
I'll just say I'll reach out to him and let him know the committee received his appeal, and we'll see what staff can do to accommodate it.
Okay. The next is Mr. Patrick Laurent. Is Mr. Laurent available? Yes, sir. Come on up. State your name, address, business, and the microphone is yours, sir.
Hello. I'm Patrick Laurent. I owned, with my brother, Barnum Wash and Dry on Barnum Avenue. It's at 2370 Barnum Avenue. Okay. It's my first time here, so be gentle. I don't know what it is here. But I received the sewer bill for the first time. We've been there for about 9 years, so I don't have any complaints about that. Okay. But it was pretty substantial. I have obviously a laundromat, and we're being charged $4.62 CCF, I guess, something cubic feet. And we had 702 units in the quarter that you guys, or I think it's every 6 months you charge. So it was a substantial dollar amount for me as a small business. So I had spoke to Tom Hyde from the WPC, and you know, he had recommended maybe a water meter, because my bill is determined based on my water usage of my Aquarian water bill. So, you know, it's the water that's coming in, not the water that's coming out, you know. So it's either, I still haven't really determined I didn't get back to him, to be fair to him, but he asked for the size of the pipe that's going out, I guess, to determine the cost of I think it's called a fluent meter or some kind of water meter. So I think that would probably more accurately measure the water that's coming out and going into the sewer system, and so I could be accurately billed. So honestly, I don't know the pros and cons of that, but that's why I'm here. And I also just make a comment. I know this 462 that you're charging, I imagine it's everyone is being charged that. You know, it's not based on business size. So, you know, I don't know if a multi-million-dollar company is being charged that and then I'm being charged that. It doesn't seem too fair to me, but that's my comment.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so I think Tom Hyde is here, right?
Yep. Mr. Hyde.
Who is he? Right here.
So what we'll do is, like I said in my opening statement, we will be in touch with you now going forward over the next month. And all the decisions, what we're going to do is we're going to render at the February 25th meeting regarding all the bills.
Okay. All right. And as you guys know, that bill was sent out very late, and I had a very short window to pay it. I didn't really think that was fair, but that's my comment.
I'll note it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Through the
sir.
chair, I just had a question.
Yep.
Sir, I just had a question because you said the bill came in. How much higher was it than what you normally pay? You say you've been there for 9 years, so how much was the increase? 50, 70%? How much higher? You know, give me an example,
It
please.
was 100%.
100%.
Because I wasn't billed before.
No problem. All right, thank you very much. For
right.
9 years, you haven't been billed?
That's right.
Lord, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harden. Yes, sir.
So I understand the concerns of the business owner, which is my district, and we've had several conversations about this. And so my expectation is that, you know, that we'll figure this out and come up with a standard rate for it and make sure that it's acceptable for homeowners and businesses to survive in this, you know, this town. And if we're sending bills out late, then I'm hoping that they're not being charged extra for us sending them out late. You know, and that we will have some, you know, leniency on this, because it's a hard year for people, you know, and I would like to sit down with you. I know the business owner talked about, you know, the water coming in versus it going out and the actual pipette size and things of that nature. So do you have the individual settlements for his business to show the input and output? Because I don't have that and I don't have access to it. But I'd like to sit down with you just to see how you came up with the cost factors and things of that nature, or how it's generated.
What we're looking at here. We don't have both pieces of information. That's what this is regarding. What we have right now is the influent flow, basically the water usage. And in most households, in most cases, that is sufficient where we bill the effluent rate relative to the influent rate. He had earlier on in the communications, possibly before it got to me, mentioned that he believes that he may lose 15% of his water into steam and so forth in process. The most effective way to measure that is to put an effluent meter in. and get exactly what's going into the system so that we can bill him accurately. I had asked him about the size of his effluent pipe going out, whether it's 6-inch, 8-inch, what have you. That was mainly just to use as guidance for what a meter may cost.
So, but I understand, are we not accurately billing people, or are we accurately billing people?
I would say that we found a couple of errors in our system and we're trying to improve upon them.
All right, so just to let you know, I mean, like I said, I didn't get back to Mr. Hyde. He did ask me for the size of the pipe, and I went down to the, cellar. I'm a layman, okay? So it looked like it was about 20.5 was one, and then the other one was 14.5. So maybe you could use that as a guide to see what the cost might be. Or just call me and we could, we could talk further. Okay?
Thank you.
Through the chair, I just had a
Anything
question
else from you guys
about
want?
the billing.
Yep, hang on, Mr. Nobrian.
sorry.
Mr. Kadim. No, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. So I'm just like Brother Harding. It's like I don't understand the billing. How does it go? Is a guesstimation thing now, or do we have something in place or is going to be in place to know exactly how to bill? Not just businesses, homes. I mean, if it's just businesses, I'm trying to be clear. It's just businesses or is it homes as well? Just businesses, okay. So, yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. So, just to be clear, he said he'd been here for 9 years, so this is something new to him. If we could be able to put something in place to kind of help them along, also to understand how the billing is done, so they know how much to look forward to paying each time if it's going to be a situation like that. I think that's something that I think we should try to work on. If it's possible, I don't know.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Kadim, yeah.
To Wally's concern, I'm not going to get it specific, but the ordinance does say like a residential household pays, is it $390?
$396.
And a business pays based on how much water they use from Aquarian. And then there's that per unit charge of the $460. So how much they're going to get charged is based on how much water they bring in and what Aquarium times the rate. So I think that's 100% clear. In this case, we have a good example of where the intent of the ordinance is to charge based on the weight it puts on the sewer system. If 15% goes up in steam, then there should be a way to, right? But what is charged for every commercial payer, it's the same rate based on usage, right? Is in the ordinance, and it's pretty clear.
Excuse me, just one more time.
Sure.
In terms of the WPCA, because we've been kind of rolling around the WPCA for the last 3 years we've been on the council. And we've been getting pumps fixed and doing a lot of good work on it to get them running properly. And then we're also taking in drainage from, Shelton and so forth. And that was the question I had when all these condos was being built. Are we putting too much of a strain on our WPCA?
But that has nothing to do with this conversation tonight.
I understand. Since he brought up weight, I was kind of like leaning in that direction. I understand that. I know we're talking about billing for businesses.
Correct.
Got it. Clear. But it's still dealing with what comes into the WPCA. If it breaks down, then no one can use the water system, right?
That's correct.
So that's what I'm saying. In terms of that, we have to look at all of it.
And we have, and Ty and Bond has done their entire evaluation study of the town, improved it at 50% capacity. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I had to bring that to light because it ain't like the WP is just sitting still. A lot of work is being done at WPCA. A lot of good work is being done.
I understand.
So I don't want the business to think we're trying to come after them because we're not. We're trying to shore up our system so that we can be accurate about this, and this is just pretty much what this is.
Agreed.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moran.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right, next, I have Mr. Tom Quinn. Hi, Tom. Good, how are you? Good? Okay. Tom, if you could state your name, your business, your address, and whatever you like.
Sure, I'm Tom Quinn. I'm the Vice President of Nuovo Pasta. We're over at 1330 Honey Spot. We've been a Stratford business now for over 16 years. We were previously on Bruce Avenue before we were here at Honey Spot. And I thank you for the opportunity to talk to you this evening. As a pasta maker, The reason I'm here this evening, and we've been working quite a bit with the folks in town, is water is an ingredient for us. So we use it in 3 different manners in making pasta. And it's really no different than what you do in your home, except for we do anywhere from, 40 to 50,000 pounds a day. Probably a lot more than you put out in your kitchen. But we're using steam pasteurization, which goes right into the product and then goes out of the building with the product. We also use water in the mixing of the pasta itself. About a third of the pasta mix is water. And we also use it in the fillings because we do all sorts of different filled ravioli, so water becomes a filling there as well. So between the pasteurization, we have 2 high-capacity steam boilers that create that steam that goes into the product. We've estimated, and again, we don't have a meter, but we've done mathematics based on our formulations and looking at our water bills, that it looks, at least on paper calculated, that we use about 30% of our water goes into pasteurization. About 20% of our water goes as a straight mix into the flour and egg mixture to make the dough itself, and about 10 to 12% goes into the fillings of what we consume. So in our particular case, and I know it's kind of unique to how water consumption goes, our water actually leaves the building on a truck and gets sold in supermarkets across the country.
Excellent. I love pasta, so.
Well, as you can see, I do a lot of quality assurance.
Yeah. Any questions for Mr. Quinn? Yes, Ms. Cannon.
The pasteurization process,
Yes.
is that 100% steam released to the environment, or some of it get condensed?
No, actually the steam, it's a live steam, so the steam actually gets absorbed by the pasta itself, and it'll take on additional weight because of that steam. So as the product gets chilled, it stays in the product and then leaves with the product in the packaging.
So just so I'm clear, Mr. Quinn, you're estimating approximately 60 to 62% goes out the door in a truck?
That's our best estimate, yes.
Okay. And you did state there's no water meter currently?
There is none.
Okay.
So again, that's all paper math based
Yep.
on, we have very specific formulations, but again,
Understood.
it is an estimate.
Understood. Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. O'Brien.
Hey, Mr. Quinn, have you been billed for the past 16 years?
Yes.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, was a big increase?
Yes. I don't know exactly when the increase came about. I would say some over the last couple of years. It just came up recently. Yes, we have been getting built, even when we were at Bruce Avenue as well.
Any other questions for Mr. Quinn? Okay, hearing none. Like I was saying before, February 25th, you will definitely hear from our representation in terms of the town attorney or the CAO or the superintendent, and
Okay,
we'll talk with you.
We appreciate the opportunity to be in Stratford, so thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for investing.
Okay, the next I have Mr. Leneker, Joel, from Branson's Walk, sir. And again, Joel, Mr. Leneker, excuse me, if you could state your name, your record, address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Joel Lineker. I run a business along with other 11 businesses at 919 Stratford Avenue and 937 Stratford Avenue. As part of the appeal, I have one question on your appeals process. We did submit formal letters of appeal to the WPCA, which outlined our position. I'm wondering if the commission members have received those letters? Or do I need to provide, within this window, do I need to provide 12 more copies of that data?
Are you referring to when you came to this public forum, sir?
No, I'm referring to the first appeal. The first letter that went out was August 29th.
Yep, that I was CC'd on as
You
well.
were CC'd on
Yes,
that.
sir.
And then there was a second letter that went out on January 9th. And there was the council letter that went out January 14th.
Mr. Marino, do we? Okay. Do you have copies of that, Mr. Leneker? If not,
I don't have 12 copies
that's fine.
of it with me. I'm more than willing to provide the data and all that information that went to the WPCA, to the mayor's office, the tax assessor's office, and the tax collector's office. So that data is to those offices. I'm more than willing to provide that information to all of you, and I would read, I guess I'll take some of this time then to read at least the initial appeal letter.
And that's fine, and and that's no problem. What I'd ask you to do tomorrow, if you can, to provide that to the council via the email, because you did, we do have it on record that it was received. Obviously, I was CC'd on it personally and spoke to you about it.
Right.
So
I can make sure they all go out to the council.
that's fine. So hang on one second. No, that's something else, I believe. So we will make sure that it gets sent out by the end of the business day tomorrow.
That's great.
No problem.
Thank you, members of the commission, for allowing this opportunity in the appeals process for 11 business owners. I represent, I'm the secretary of the Ransoms Walk Condominium Association. We are a commercial condominium association. The unit owners, and this was addressed to Mr. Tom Hyde on August 29th. This was after we received, the unit owners received bills for some, let me back up. Some unit owners received bills. Some owners did not receive bills. Some owners received a bill for like $198. Another business owner received a bill for $688. The square footage of these office condominiums are about anywhere between 700 square feet and 1,400 square feet. So the unit owners of Ransoms Walk Association, located at 919-937 Stratford Avenue, are appealing the 2018 sewer use bills for units 919 1 through 7 and 937 1 through 4, based upon the inability of the tax assessor's office to provide the billing methodology in which the bills have been calculated, and that the town has not followed the Town of Stratford Code Sewer Ordinance, Part 3, Sewer Use, Article 10, Implementation of the User Charge, Section 17287, Calculation of Charges, Letter D. And from that ordinance, or that section, Letter D, it says all users shall be charged on the basis of the volume of their total wastewater contribution. Again, I remind you, we are a commercial complex. We are not residential. The Ransoms Walk Association is comprised of 11 commercial business owners with one water and sewer line servicing all units. Aquarian Water Company sends one bill to the association documenting water usage. The Town of Stratford has billed the association for sewer usage based upon that water usage, and the association has paid those bills since 1986. So we have been receiving bills and we have been paying them. The association is current for all water and sewer usage charges as of August 29th. In August of 2018, the tax collector sent sewer use bills to each unit owner addresses at 919 1 through 7 and 937 3, which was received on or about August 13 in the amount of $396 with a payment due date of September 4th, 2018. Unit owner 937-4 received a bill of $688.38, while unit owner at 374-1 and 2 received no bill. The Ransoms Walk Association Town of Stratford sewer tax was in the amount of $679.14 for the period of July 1st, 2017 to January 1st, 2018. The total sewer use bill for 2017 was $1,625.82. With a new billing procedure, if each unit owner is to pay $396 per year, the new sewer use bill will be $4,356 for an annual increase of $2,730 for the same sewer use. The increase does not support the town sewer ordinance 17287. In this letter, we did supply copies of your ordinance to all of those people that were CC'd. We also provided Aquarian bills for the last 2 years, so you can calculate exactly all the 100 cubic feet of use of water. We have 1 meter, okay? There are 11 units, all right? So someone might say, so the answer we got from the tax assessor's office was that they were allowed to charge a minimum to commercial users. If you read the ordinance, yes, you can charge a minimum to the residential unit owners, and there's a whole big section about that. but it says for commercial use, and I quote again, all users shall be charged on the basis of the volume of their total wastewater contribution. And then I say, attached you'll find the documents, Aquarian Water Company bill date 7/19/18, 2017, receipt for the Ransom's Walk commercial sewer use bill in the amount of $679.14, a 2018 sewer bill for Lenaker Design, which is my unit, and Unit 937, and a copy of the Stratford Town Code Ordinance 172-87, calculation of charges. Since the Stratford Code lists the WPCA as the agent for appeals, you're receiving this request in documentation. Until this appeal can be heard and the tax assessor can provide the methodology for billing and provide town policies and documentation to support assessments, we will not be paying the current sewer use bill and expect no late payments, interest penalties. I've been to the assessor's office on or about August 15th and August 22nd in hopes to resolve this matter, but to no avail. The association is looking forward to working with you to resolve this matter in an expedient manner. So this was our initial reaction to the bills that we received. I did stand before the town council about 2 weeks ago, and I made a series of recommendations for the appeals process in which if you're going to make a major change in your billing, that at least there be a letter sent with that bill to the unit owners explaining your methodology and the ordinance that supports that. Now, I may have gone through this ordinance and not found the reasons why you can create this increase, but I am really looking for help for someone from the community or from this town to show us that methodology. We really can't understand how unit owners that are 700, they're small unit owners, from 700 unit spaces, from 700 to 1,400 square feet, you can have someone get billed $688.23 and other people not be billed at all. Does anybody have an answer for that? I mean, how can you do that to your business owners that have been paying this much money for this long? Now, I know that's an editorial comment, but I'm not going to read the second letter, because the second letter, we then received more bills again, because we went through a whole billing process. Indeed, not everybody was billed. And then the person that got billed $688 never received a bill. So we are asking the help of the WPCA to come up with a methodology that we will understand. We do understand that if you wish to charge a minimum charge to commercial businesses, that I would like to see that put into your new ordinance, have it written, reviewed by the public, you guys vote on it if that's what you want to do, and then you can bill us. But right now, I cannot seem to find any support for this current methodology, this billing methodology. So there's 3 letters that you should be receiving. I'd be more than happy, my phone number's on all of them. I'm more than happy to discuss anything with any of you regarding that. We certainly want to be partners in the community. We certainly want to pay our fair share. That's really all we're asking for, is if we used X amount of 100 cubic feet of water, that's what we would like to pay for. And that's what we understand we've been paying for to this point. Now, I did speak with Deborah Heim at the tax collector's office, and she alluded to that there had been that because the association was paying the water bill, that the town could no longer bill the association. Valid comment, all right? But then there was no follow-up as to what was going to be done. We have no idea how this came about, and I really urge you going forward, when you start dealing with other businesses, if you're going to change the methodology, you need to make sure your tax assessor knows the methodology, that your tax collector knows the methodology, so they can answer the questions. Because maybe this could have all been avoided if there was just a simple answer to it and say, here it is in your ordinance, this is what you owe, and we would go away. But we cannot get answers. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lineker. Okay, forgot that one. The only other one that I was made aware of is any representation from Mill River. Yes, just want to make sure everyone's heard. If you could state your name, title, and I mentioned the business, but if you wouldn't mind, just the address for the record.
My name is Robin Moore. I'm the controller at Mill River Country Club, 4567 Main Street. We got a bill back in August which was different than in the past. In the past, we had been billed for 21 households, and that was our bill. We paid it divided by 2. We were just billed that in the past. The WPCA, I believe, changed their methodology and decided to change the billing based on usage. Our usage is to irrigate the grass. We have a sprinkler system that takes a lot of and uses most of the water. We have 2 bathrooms, a men's room and a ladies' room in the main building, and then we have 2 facilities also out on the course. We also have a pool, which in the summer we constantly are filling with water. Our thought is that none of that is used or goes into the sewer. It's used, goes into the ground. We've been working with Melinda and Chris to try to figure out, we have 2 meters. We have one that's in the main building and one that's out in the irrigation area. We're working to figure out how to change the way, we need flow meters, I guess is the best way to say it, or else go back to the old 21 households, because our bill in August went from $4,000 to almost $19,000, and I can't even tell you the second bill, which was completely wrong, and as to their credit, they called us, or I called them, and they said it was incorrect, but the bills do not reflect sewer use. So I don't know how best to change that, but we certainly can't afford to pay the bills that we've received. And we also don't believe that the meters that we have anything to do with sewer use. I can't even guesstimate, but if I had a guess, I'd probably say 90% of the water is not going to sewers. But that's just a wild guess. We just have 2 meters, and they used one of the meters and all of a sudden changed the methodology for how they were billing us. In the past, we were just billed, I don't know who came up with it, but I've been here 6 years. We were just billed 21 households. It was probably a guesstimate as how much sewer use we had. I don't know. But that changed, and when that changed, our bills got to where we can't afford to pay them. So I'm here to appeal on behalf of Mill River and figure out a better way to do it. And Chris and Melinda, we've been working together to try to do that. I think the best thing at this point is, to go back to the way it was, or definitely to install flow meters, which will clearly tell you how much we're used for sewer. And, that's where we are. We got the second bill, and we'd like to appeal it.
Understood. Any question for Robin from Mill River?
Yes. Sorry.
I saw his finger first, so I'm going with Greg.
Chairman, a general question.
Yes, sir.
The appeals committee?
Yep.
Do we know who's going to be sitting on that? You mentioned an attorney.
I had spoken to Mr. Marino. Vin, if you'd like to answer the councilor's question or the commissioner's question.
To this body in some form, either its present form or a hopefully resolution for you to consider and hopefully adopt based upon the recommendation of staff.
Thank you.
Just like Mr. Chair, under 17288, water consumption basis, there is the authority in regulations. Subsection C specifically provides that in the event a significant portion of the water consumed by a non-residential user is not discharged into the sewage system, the root cause shown in the record may make an appropriate adjustment to that annual charge. So, what we hope to do over the next month is work with these users and discover what that difference between effluent is and water intake is, with the movement towards flow meters, which will be the best evidence as to what their actual bill should be, but that's something that has to be voluntary by the property.
Thank you, Mr. Marino. Wally, yes, sir.
Yes. So in terms of the billing that they have, I'm so glad you guys are jumping on it, because that's a big jump from 4,000 to 19,000. Like what happened? You opened up a zoo 5 minutes ago. So that's something to think about going forward. It's very important to keep on top of that kind of thing, especially if people are living in a situation where they have a budget, and that's very, very important, because we don't want anybody to suffer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to note that Melinda and Chris have been very helpful. Everybody realizes that this is something that changed drastically, and, they were very willing to work with us and try to figure it out and find the best way to do it. So I appreciate their help as well.
Well, all of them are good guys. The WPCA guys, Chris, everybody's good guys. They're just trying to find a medium. They all good guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. All right. Mr. Timniak, are there any other appeals this evening? I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody.
No, we went through 5, right?
We went through 5.
Yeah,
I believe that was the number. Okay.
All I have on record.
Thank you.
And, I'm happy to include, call me anytime if you want, any information on how the meetings are going, and if you want any updates prior to the next meeting on what we've agreed to or what we've come up with, or the rationale of how we got there. It's your committee, and you have to vote for it at the end of the day. So we want to be inclusive entirely, and I've let the business owners know that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Timniak. So what I'll do, in the interest of moving on, I would like to entertain a motion to authorize the staff of the WPCA attorney, Mr. Marino, to review the appeals presented at tonight's meeting and take all necessary action to draft proposed resolutions for consideration by the Commission at its next meeting scheduled on February 25th, 2019.
So moved.
I heard Mr. O'Brien first. Do I have a second by Mr. Ticky? Any further discussion? Call a vote. All in favor? Aye. Chair votes aye. Motion passed unanimously. Thank you all for attending. Going back to the agenda, item number 3, report by the town engineer, Mr. Casey.
So I wanted to bring to your attention the next phase of the SSES project, the I&I study. We are proceeding with manhole inspections, so it just constitutes people going out and popping manhole covers and looking inside and seeing what's going on and see if there's any infiltration occurring or any defects to the manhole. So if you get any calls, that's what you're seeing. They should be in the area of Marina Drive this coming week, and they're going from neighborhood to neighborhood. So that's on its way. Should be done mid-February. We're also had published a flyer, as we talked about doing a little PR campaign. I copied the flyer in my memo. That was posted on the website. And we're, partly trying to make sure everyone understands the need to keep clean water out of the sewer system. At the same time, we're making an appeal if people knew that something at their house might be contributing to clean water, that they could call us and make an appointment for an inspection. We left the phone number for our consultant who's doing the work, as well as the staff phone numbers. And we got a couple calls ourselves, but we only got one call for someone requesting an inspection, so we'll be scheduling that. In the meantime, we'll be doing exterior inspections of the houses in certain areas to make sure we're trying to track down any errant inflow. And then lastly, the consultant is looking at doing a survey of large commercial roofs that might have roof drains. And those roof drains typically discharge or transmit through the building, so we don't see a pipe for the roof drain pipe. And they have experienced that sometimes you find out that some interior roof drains are connected to the sanitary sewer. So we're, just like the flyer that we put out, we're also going to mail a letter that has similar information in it and ask if commercial buildings are interested in having their roof drain looked at. And that letter will be sent out shortly. And that's the current status of that SSES project.
Ms. Gann.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. The letter's not been, for example, included in the bills, the tax bills, the WPCA?
No, this flyer, you mean?
Right.
Yeah, no, it didn't go into the bill.
Something for the future?
We could do that at the next round. I think we should have a continuous campaign for that.
And your next point about looking for drains at vent, or that's a good idea. It seems to be a great idea. Thanks for looking for those type of opportunities.
Okay.
So the next project is this 6 pump station project. We talked about last meeting in November that the state was going to be lifting the limitation on the funding available for each town, which they did, and as expected, they lifted it, and we are proceeding, as we discussed, to go with the 5 of the 6 pump stations out to bid as one project. And the 6th pump station at Ryan's Lane, we're going to put on temporary hold until we see what's going on with the Army engine plant. So the consultant is working on that design. We're looking at possible submittal to the state for approval in the late spring, and then getting ready to bid the project out in late summer. I should note that we talked about applying for the Clean Water Fund to fund that project for a loan, and that loan application process will require the town to pass a bond ordinance for the full amount, which then we borrow from the state instead of bonding it ourselves. So that will be something you want to keep on your radar, to have that bond ordinance should be in place before we go out to bid this summer.
And that's something we've already discussed with Jay Wahlberg.
Yes.
Correct. Thank
you. The sewer lining project, we've essentially completed. We are going to close this project out and then get ready to start another project in the next coming year. Of the $995,000 in funding that was approved for the project, we've spent about $750,000, and so we'll have $245,000, say, of funds from the fund that you've already authorized, and then we'll be proposing in our capital plan the next round, which should typically be another $500,000. But that's all coming in the future. I'm just letting you know. As the capital plan moves forward, we'll be proposing additional sewer improvement work. Some of that will be coming out of the I&I study, where we find that we should spend a little areas that need attention for I&I, and then the others will be in coordination with capital projects that are ongoing. And then lastly, same thing, the Coastal Resiliency Project, just keeping that in your mind. Will be, again, that's in the capital plan, but with the application to FEMA for grant, we want to make sure that we have the capital plan up to date based on what we committed to fund in this, should the grant be approved.
Any estimate on when they generally let people know?
I think in the spring, March, April.
Spring. Okay. Thank you.
That's my report.
Any other questions for Mr. Casey? Think about it.
Of course. Mr. Casey, in the 6 pump stations or the 5, the Clean Water Fund, that's low interest, 20 years, I believe?
20-year note.
Yeah, it'd be a 20-year loan at 2%.
But that does not preclude us from maybe getting, for example, a FEMA grant that would help further offset.
No, if we were able to get resiliency money for pump station improvements, we could break that out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, good question. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Casey. Moving on. Mr. Hyde, or I should say the Toms. He never gets any of the credit, you know, so I'm going to say the Toms going forward. Yep. Carol printed them over there.
What I had forwarded to you was a copy of both November and December's operations.
Because obviously we weren't here in December. Flows for 2018 were about 20% higher than the average flows. That has caused us some problems throughout the year. Some of we've been talking about. Average water temperature in December was 57 degrees, 57.1, down about 10.8 degrees from October. So our bugs are slowing down. Nitrogen released during December averaged 249 pounds per day, which is well below the 356 pound per day limit. The 2018 average was about 386 pounds per day. Our permit's 356. So we are 30 pounds per day over on nitrogen. That means we're not going to be receiving a check this fall. We're going to be putting a check out. Reasons for that? There were several things going on. One of the most pertinent things going on was the rainfall once again, because that's a multiplier in the equation. And there's 79 plants in this program. Typically about 30 of them are buying credits because they're over on nitrogen. This year, 56 or 57 of them, including ourselves, are buying. We were about 8% over on our nitrogen. Had we had an average flow, we would have been about 10% below and would have been where we were for the last couple of years. The plant running, however, has improved dramatically. If we have the same situation this coming year, as we started off that way, we should be in significantly better shape. We are we've got a better plant. It's running better, and we're running it better than anybody that works there can remember. There's a lot of good positive things that are coming out of the work that we have done there. We started off last year a little behind on the nitrogen. Part of that was an experiment, but mostly that was because of the high flows, and we'll have that under control this year.
Tom, just a question. I know this is completely out of any of our hands, but any idea how much being over the nitrogen is going to cost?
It depends. It could be between $48,000 and $50,000.
Okay.
It's structured so that that bill will not come till after the new budget is in place. That's the way they set the program up. However, there's also the possibility that because so many towns are on the wrong side of this, that they will adjust what the rates are, what the charge is, and what the payouts and what the penalties are. So we don't have a solid number on that yet, but it could be as high as $48,000 to $50,000.
And you said it was 56 out of how many? Approximately.
79.
Okay. Thank you.
UV disinfection system. We've been doing live testing on that for a while now. We had some bugs in there. We had to have the company back a few times. It's performing pretty well at this point. Instead of running the entire system, which is about 324 400-watt bulbs, 24 hours a day, we're now running a third of the system most of the time, third to half the system. It's running on automatic the way that it should. And got a couple more things. During the hot weather, it doesn't perform very well. Excuse me, that was very wrong. During the hotter weather, some of the control boxes get overheated. The air conditioning isn't working quite correctly. We got 2 out of 3 of those straightened out. The company will be coming back in the heat of the summer again to check that out. We've released $125,000 of the $180,000 towards payment on it at this point to give them a little bit of relief. And there's a couple of other fluctuating readings and so forth, some things that they need to come in and troubleshoot a little bit, but they are supporting us, and I actually have a message right now looking for a call for me tomorrow. Plant pump station maintenance, pump stations and plant maintenance. Second pump at Oak Bluff, which went down, which started making noises, overheated a couple months ago, is being evaluated for repair at this point. And we also rebuilt a filter press sludge pump in our press building. On the biofilter and odor complaint resolution, we got the air quality test report. It's now online. If you want to take a look at it, it came back fairly favorable for us. Came back very favorably for us. They had a couple of recommendations, some small things we can do, add an auxiliary fan here and there, but over and all, we came out of that very well. We're running a good plant there. It almost doesn't stink, but every once in a while wastewater plant is going to stink. But also, one of the questions on that whole thing was if the smell, the odors that were getting away were hazardous, whether those gases were toxic. And the reality is, no, the ones that they are probably smelling are coming off our aeration tanks, you know, on a foggy day or what have you. They may come up, and they are the same gases that are coming off that's off the low tide in the river right next door. So, fortunately, we came out of that very well. In the meantime, we also cleaned that system up very well, so we're performing no issues there. Fine bubble aeration, the stones. This is the aeration in the aeration tanks where we have the filter stones similar to in a fish tank. Talking about cleaning those a couple months ago. They are reusable, they can be cleaned. Still working on a cost analysis for at this point whether it'll be worth cleaning them or replacing them or using an alternate rubber pad that they have out today. Headworks, bar rack, we rebuilt one of them completely, had a fellow come in and take all the bolts and bushings and tear the thing down and put it back together. This year we're going to go after the second one in 2019. They'd gotten worn to the point where they were starting to get out of line and trip and burn up motors from time to time, cause some issues. So we have one down, the second one we will get next year. Effluent pump, we're back to those effluent pumps. Seal blew out on one of those pumps, and apparently they're blowing seals out about annually, each one. This one also has a bad bushing inside. We're evaluating whether we can replace that bushing, go in and find what the actual cause was without pulling the pump this time, or whether we have to go in, whether we have to pull it all the way out to do that. Looking for the experts to answer those questions. They're beyond our capacity. And the switchgear testing. We had I believe I mentioned, that would have been back in November. We had lightning strike a pole just outside our plant and send a transformer up in flames, and we lost a couple of small motors in that process. The switchgear for our generator got damaged. We ended up having the electrician sit and babysit that while we repaired that for about a month and a half. So it was about a $100,000, $150,000 expenditure to get that gear repaired. We had $40,000 set aside for switchgear testing this year. It's just lightning was a little quicker than we were. We're going to continue on with the testing next year, but just want to give you a heads up on that. We did take a good hit there, and that came out of I don't have the budget in front of me. Equipment repair, upgrade. And that's about all I have for you.
I love lightning. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Hyde? Greg.
Thank you, Chair. I know the new budget's actively being discussed right now, and we did put a lot of extra maintenance money aside last year so that we didn't have major catastrophes, you know, what do they call those God events? Lightning?
Lightning.
So I hope the funding levels we have now for maintenance, if you will, and plant is sufficient for next year, but I want to thank you guys for getting it to that place where the equipment is happy, the employees are happy, and the customers are happy. And it's better when no news is the best news, but having a reliable infrastructure is key to the success of our town. And I believe you when you say we've come a long way. So thank you for getting us to the place that we are. That's it.
Thank you, Greg. Any other questions? Nope. Hearing none. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. And with that, I'll entertain a motion for adjourn. Wally and Mr. Perillo. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. 8:41.